Hello and welcome to Purpose Matrix. My name is Phil Moeller, and I want to talk to you today about a very important topic, purpose. And I want to talk about the importance of thinking about, clarifying, and writing down our purpose, because the reality is we need to be on purpose. We need to be on a mission. A lot of us are pursuing goals and maybe results and outcomes, but we don't have the bigger view, the bigger mission in mind. We're focused on the micro, but we're not focused on the macro, the bigger picture. And we need to know the bigger picture and what we're pursuing. I believe that we need to be purposeful and intentional in every single area of life. I'm going to reference a couple of quotes from some of my favorite authors. First, there's a famous quote from Mark Twain that says, "The two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why." I love that quote. And we're going to talk today about how we can help you find your why, at least get you on the right path and the right journey to do so. The other quote I like is from Matthew Kelly, a favorite author of mine who wrote the book, The Rhythm of Life. I have it here on my bookshelf. If you're on YouTube, you can see that. But basically, what his quote is, "A great purposelessness has descended upon our modern culture. Our essential purpose is to become the best version of ourselves." And I think that's so important and so profound. And really, it's very holistic. It's very generalized because, if we can just be the best version of ourselves in what we want to be and who we want to be, I think there's no better pursuit than that. And we'll talk about the different layers and levels of that throughout this discussion. But look, this isn't hard to do. This isn't easy to do. It's hard to do. It's hard to get our minds around purpose. It's such a big topic. So I want to try to break it down a little bit and simplify it and help you think about an analogy of how we can compare goals to purpose, goals to mission. And then give you some actionable steps and some questions to think about on how you can help find your purpose, whether that's your biggest purpose for spirituality, if that's for family, for health, for work, for your financials, for your professional life. We're going to talk about all those things today and hopefully give you some guidance on how you can help figure that out. Or at least, again, as I said, get on the journey of figuring that out. That's our goal today. So I want to talk about goals versus mission. I just heard this on a podcast where they were talking about, are you on a mission? Are you pursuing goals and pursuing outcomes? Are you chasing something? I'll use chasing goals, or pursuing mission is maybe a good way to say it. And we need to be pursuing mission with goals guiding us along the way. I'll talk about football. In sports, I think, are a great analogy here. But, in football, if it's a good coach, a great coach like a John Wooden, who's a basketball coach, but I think very, very highly of him and what he did and what he was all about. So I'll reference him. He was on a mission and he got the results, but he was on a mission. I'll come back to what that was, or what his mission was a little bit later. But a lot of times we think about our goals. So like for me, we'll use football throughout this conversation. Maybe we have daily goals. Let's just call those like first downs. We're trying to get first downs. We have a strategy for those. We have a game plan. We understand the defense are going to play, what offense, we're going to use our best players, our best plays. We're going to make adjustments throughout, but we're going to try to get first down. So those are our daily goals, right? Our weekly goals, we might set weekly goals. I want to do this so many days this week, or I want to work out this many times, or I want to, pray this many times. I want to hang out with my kids for 1 hour, each of my kids 1 hour each, a different night of the week, which, by the way, that's harder to do the more kids you have, but I digress. But maybe our weekly goals are like, a possession or a touchdown. We want to win that quarter of the game. And, our strategy for that is similar, but there's a little bit more to it. We have, offense, we have to be thinking about a whole series in the play calling. How does defense impact the offense, special teams? How do different areas of life impact our professional goals? Does health impact our professional goals? So we're starting to think a little bit bigger when we think our weekly goals are how to get the touchdown. So now if we go to what are our monthly goals? Well, let's compare that to, the month is a game. Let's win the game. We need to win the game. So now our strategy is even slightly different than just this possession or scoring a touchdown. We don't want to show much on certain plays. We don't want to give away what we're doing. We want to keep the players fresh throughout the game. We want to sub people in and out a lot. There's all kinds of different and new strategies as we get into the longer term or the bigger goals, right? So you can kind of see where this is going for our lives. We have to be thinking about the long term, but bring it back to our short term and what we need to do today. So we need the long term, the micro and the macro to be connected here. So now if we go to our quarterly goals. Maybe we set quarterly rocks for ourselves personally or for our business, which I encourage you to do, and have a process to hold yourself accountable for those. But maybe that's like a quarter of the season, a half of the season, maybe the second half of the season, maybe even the playoffs. But now we're thinking about things like, okay, our player health, our development, our strategy for different positions throughout the year, and what players are going to do. What's our practice schedule, and what days are rest days, film days, full contact days, things like that. So our practice routine, and then also who are the leaders in the clubhouse? What is the culture we're building? Things like that. So again, each level here, we're getting bigger. So our annual goal, in football, we want to win the Super Bowl. That's our goal. Every single year is for this year, we want to win the Super Bowl. That's our goal. If we're playing NFL football. And again, our strategy gets a little bit bigger. The culture, the practice strategy, player development, but coaching, the coaching staff, how are we scouting teams? Every single time there's new layers that come in. So that's really our annual goal. But now if we think a little bit bigger for a football program, how are we going to build our 3 to 5 year plan? And really, I think our goal from a football perspective is we want to build a sustainable winning program. And if we want to do that, we want to, scouting, player development, the draft, all the coaches we're hiring throughout, our general manager, all the different office, back office staff, everything. Who are the mentors we're bringing in? We're probably bringing in leadership speakers and other, consultants to come in and help out the players, health and nutrition. There's all kinds of things we are doing to build a winning program. And we need to be thinking about these bigger picture, more macro things in our businesses and in our personal lives as well. But what we really want to be doing that guides all of our goals and how we set goals is, what is the mission we are on? What is our purpose? And I'll switch back now from football to John Wooden. But John Wooden's mission, he wanted to be, he was the best coach of all time, but his goal was not winning. He wanted to build character, integrity, provide life lessons to his players. And he even said, how do you feel about outcomes and results? And he won, I think it was 10 championships. I forget the exact number, but it was a phenomenal record in the 70s, including several championships straight. And I apologize, but I should know that. But he said, I won't really know if I've been successful until 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, when I see what kind of men these players became based on the impact that he was able to have on them. Was he, did they get misguided and misdirected, or did they grow into good, mature, human beings that are contributing to society? So his goal was to build character, to build integrity, and really give these players life lessons. So, if we have that, of course he had goals in the micro for this year, for this week, for the practices, for games, all the things I talked about. But we have to connect our short-term micro goals to our macro goals. But really, we have to connect that to our mission and to our purpose. And I set goals and I miss goals all the time, but I think I'm moving in the right direction. I really think I'm moving in the right direction. I feel like I'm on purpose. Will I get redirected? Will things change? Absolutely. We will talk about how finding purpose is an iterative process here in a little bit, but I think I'm on the right track. So when I miss those goals, I can be at peace knowing that I'm going to keep moving in this direction. And I just know I'm going to have to course correct along the way. So we're going to, just throughout today's discussion, we're going to talk about why is purpose and having it important. And I kind of talked about it a little bit, but I want to add to it from some other authors that I like. We're going to talk about how to find that. There's 3 different models that I'll reference on how to find our purpose. And again, this will be applied to you professionally or you personally. You should be thinking about this, how we align our purpose in the different areas of life, which is so, so critical. And how if you do that, you will be better in every area of life. It's not going to, they're not going to hurt each other. They're actually going to support each other. And we're going to talk about that in every area of life, because really what we're going to offer you is that if you do this, your faith's going to get stronger, your relationships will get better, your health will get better, your wealth will get better. Everything will improve if you're in alignment and you have not the final clarity of your purpose, but a direction of purpose if you're moving in a direction. So I talked a little bit about why purpose matters, why it's important in football team and the analogy of that and how we can apply that to our personal lives. But I also want to bring in some different speakers and context to this. So there's a really famous TEDx talk from Simon Sinek, who wrote the book Start With Why, which you see here on my bookshelf. And he has like a 20-minute TEDx talk. I'd really encourage you to check it out. But he talks about how people and organizations thrive when they know their why before their how and their what. And he has these, what he calls the golden circles: why, how, and what, and how you need to start with why. And I think that's so important, because if you know your why, but you may not figure out your how or your what, or those may change. But if you're pursuing a why, then you're on the right track. And again, your why can even change, but really your how and your what should be guided by your why, where most of the time, most organizations and most people, quite frankly, they do it the other way around. So for our business, what we're doing, our mission is to leverage real estate to do good in many ways. So the why of that is do good in many ways. The how of that is through real estate and through business. We're going to leverage that. We're going to leverage the relationships we have, the connections we have, the access to residents or contractors or investors or whoever, our listeners. We're going to use that platform to do good in many ways. So that's our how. And then the what is, and honestly, we're still trying to figure this out. We don't have it all solved, but one example is we're trying to do things with residents where we can really have an impact on them. Just simple things, small things, but also, we offered a financial program for free where we would have funded it to the residents. And we got a couple of people interested. Did it have a huge impact? No, but we're working through the what. Of course, we're just doing the things like we're going to answer the call. We're going to take care of your place. We're going to give you a safe place to live. But we're also going to hold them accountable. But I'm not going to go in that today. But we answer the phone. We listen with empathy. We say things like, hey, have a great day. Have a blessed day. We incentivize good behavior. Actually, we had a walkthrough today, and I was like, hey, we need to send that lady a follow-up. She was so nice. There was a maintenance item that came up the day before. She was super appreciative, super thankful, complimenting the maintenance person, our maintenance team member. Like, hey, let's just send her a thank you for being so positive and helping the overall culture of the community that we have. So there's just small things that you can do to incentivize good behavior. And we have this platform to do good in many ways. So we're trying to seek everyone. We're trying to impact everyone that we touch. But our how and our what, we don't have that all solved, but we know why we're doing what we're doing. And there also can be things. Look, there's also financial opportunities from what we're doing and good things that we can do from that as well that we'll talk about. So, but I think as a business, if we do this, the financials will work out just fine. I mean, that's probably the main point and we'll talk about the different models and how you build this together. But if you do the right things, if you just answer the phone, if you just treat people well, your business will probably do well. Not a guarantee, of course, but it'll probably work out pretty well. And I think in life, if you do this too, life will work out well for you, if I'm being completely honest. So there's 3 different models now I want to reference for how to find your purpose. And I encourage you to write these 3 things down because they're from 3 very credible sources, but they're very similar. So that's why I think it's worth taking note of. So first, Matthew Kelly, I referenced in Rhythm of Life. He says there's this intersection of your desires, your talents, and your needs. Second, Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, this is more of a business perspective, but he says the intersection of your passions, what you can be best in the world at, and your economic engine. So you can see the similarities. And then there's also this model, and I'll try to say this, but it's a Japanese model called the Ikigai, which is what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and then what you can be paid for. And really the summary is there's 3 things that come up over and over again there. The first one is your passion, desires, or what you love to do. So that's the first question is like, what do you love to do? And if you're not doing things you love to do, you need to find things you love to do. The second one is, what are you uniquely good at? What are your talents? What can you be best in the world at? This is for you personally and professionally. What are you good at? All 3 models have those items. And the final one is, what does the world need? What are the needs? The other one, it says needs or economic engine, which also, if you bring value, if you bring value to what the world needs, you will get paid for it. It can drive your economic engine. So a lot of similarities. And especially if you don't have this if you haven't thought about this for your business, I really encourage you to get clear on your why and your mission for your business. But also personally, and from a personal perspective or from a professional perspective, or how your purpose for serving others, for serving the world, for serving God, whatever it is for you. I think these are great questions to be asking yourself. The other thing that Simon Sinek said is that your why isn't created, it's uncovered. So it's an iterative process. It's not like, oh, I'm going to ask these 3 questions of myself. I'm going to write that down and boom, I got it for the rest of my life. Don't expect that. What you need to do is be content with moving in the direction. Write it down and move in that direction and use the iterative process that we have that we'll talk about. Matthew Kelly in his book said, it's an iterative and lifelong process. We must continue to ask why, put others first, and make our purpose in any area of life bigger than ourselves. That's a direct quote from Matthew Kelly. I love it. And it ties to what we're trying to convey to you in the Purpose Matrix so much. And the iterative process for us, first, I think it was Matthew Kelly that talked about it, but it's the iterative process is about purpose, mindset, and action. And it's, if that sounds familiar, the acronym PEACE that we have, purpose, education, and association, that's building the mindset. And then courage and example, that's putting it into action. So I think it's just important because I think we make purpose such a big thing, and it is big. But because of that, it's hard to put it into action or know what to do next. And the next step is ask yourself the 3 questions we talked about, write that down, and then figure out, how can I educate myself on this? Who maybe can help me do this? What are 1 or 2 courageous actions I can take to move in this direction? How can I be an example and show others how to do this once I've done it? So if you start to do those things, that process then will say, oh, well, I did that. I learned from that. I'm actually going to adapt my purpose statement a little bit and adjust it for my business or for me personally. And I'm going to go through that again. I'm going to keep educating myself. I'm going to keep hanging out and associating with people that are living purposefully, especially in the area of life you're thinking about. And I'm going to keep learning from them and growing. And I'm going to keep doing courageous things that I think are in the right direction. And again, you don't have to have it all figured out, but you have to act. You have to have the courage. You have to start the process. So the other thing that Matthew Kelly talked about, and what I'll talk about now, is we really need to make our purpose professionally or for different areas of life bigger than ourselves. If it's just about ourselves, it's not going to provide peace and joy. It's going to be empty. The other thing is we need to align our purposes in different areas of life around each other and in support of each other. True peace, so Matthew Kelly said this, true peace is found when we put spirituality first. In my opinion, all of our different purposes, if we align it with our spirituality, that is when we can really get true peace. I couldn't agree more with his statement there. And I say put spirituality first and line the different areas of life to support that. And the matrix does that. So one example of how we align this is, okay, what is our purpose for money, or what is our financial purpose? What are we trying to do with money? Why do we work, or why do we want to make money? And of course, there's Maslow's hierarchy that talks about needs and the different levels. Here's a potential progression of like what a purpose for work might be. It's like, I want my spouse to be able to work less, or I want my spouse to be able to be home at the kids more, or I want to be at home. I want to have more flexibility. I want to work less and be at home more. Then maybe it evolves. We do that and we learn from that. We grow from that. We're like, you know what? I want to do a little bit more from a work perspective. So maybe I want to build a business that I can do full time, that I can just focus on that. That's really, if I can do that, I can really serve and support our family, not just myself, but our family, our children. We can travel more. Or maybe I want to build a business where, maybe I can be financially free for our family and we just have total flexibility and we can do whatever we want. Which, by the way, if you do that and you have the ambition to do that, I think you'll end up really finding your purpose. I would also say that if you have a clear purpose on what you want to do professionally, you're much more likely to get there financially. Just like we talked, like financials generally follow a bigger purpose very, very well. Maybe you want to build a business that can develop others, help them learn, help them earn. But from a financial perspective, and then maybe you want to build a business that allows you to donate to others, or maybe your team members that are making money can donate to others, or you can donate as a company to other organizations, or just bigger causes bigger than yourselves. So you can see how, depending on your age and stage of life and where you're at and your financial stage, how this can evolve over time. And that's completely okay. But I would just like, what is your next purpose? What are you trying to do next from a financial perspective? And then you can apply this kind of iterative process to every area of life. And like financials, Okay, well, I want to do this. Okay, how do I educate myself? Who do I associate with? What are the courageous things I need to do to go after that? What is the example I'm leading when I'm doing that? And then you can apply this to any area of life. We talk faith, family, finance, fitness, but we can do this with our friends. We can do this. Hey, I want to be a better leader. Okay, I'm gonna follow this process for leadership. You could do this. If you want to be a better coach or better at sports, if you're younger or in sports, whatever your career, if you want to be a better teacher, you name it, you put that as a column and you go through this process, and it can make you much better and live more purposefully within that domain, within that area of life. So there's that's how we follow the process, and that it's iterative. And then the important thing is, and as Matthew Kelly said, like ultimately we need to align our different areas of life with faith, in my opinion, faith and spirituality being our primary purpose. So, some different purpose statements you might have for faith, know, love, and serve God, or to enjoy my personal purpose for my faith, to enjoy God's beauty on earth and in heaven with my family. And that says a lot. If you really maybe rewind and think about that, that isn't just like a simple statement. That was very thoroughly thought out, I'll say. And there's a lot of layers to that, that you can come from just that simple statement. So that's why I like it. From a family perspective, I just could be simple as I want to raise good kids. I want to raise kids that contribute to society. For us, we want to live and teach our core values, which we're always trying to do our best at. We have moments of not doing this, of course. I definitely do, but that's what I'm trying to do, is just to live and teach our core values. And one of those core values is faith. So it supports the higher purpose that we have. From a work perspective, maybe this is financial for you that I talked about. Maybe it's, I want to work with a team that wins together. Maybe it's about the team members. I want to impact everybody I touch, the contractors we touch, the employees we have, the bosses or supervisors that we have, the counterparts and peers we have, whoever it is. I just want to impact them and just leave. I had a boss in my prior career. His kind of statement was, I want to leave my mark. Like I want to leave a positive imprint wherever I go. Or we had a recent podcast or guest on our show that talked about he wants to leave a wake, like a wake boat, but he wants to leave a positive wake on people. He wants to have a positive impact on people. So maybe you want to give, maybe you want to donate, support others financially, as I talked about. So those are different work or professional or financial purpose statements you can think about. And finally, fitness. And I think this is really a misunderstood one. So, maybe it's, I just want to be free of issues, free of freedom of health. I don't want health to be a barrier. I want to optimize it. So I want to have energy for my kids and my grandkids and to live my purpose. That's my goal. But I think so many people just misunderstand health and fitness because they don't understand the importance of how it makes them better in every area of life. So that's where some people would say put health first. I wouldn't say put health first. I'd say get clear on how important health is in supporting your bigger purposes, which involves others and your faith. So if that's your kids, if that's your spouse, if that's your coworkers, if you understand how your health impacts all those other people or your spirituality, then I think you will make health more of priority if you're convicted on your bigger purposes, is my point. So get clear on your purposes and understand how health impacts it. Because if you're healthier, you're going to have more energy. You're going to be a better leader. You're going to be a better mother, a better father, a better husband, a better wife, whatever it is. So just understanding how health fits in, and really for all these different areas of life, how they support each other, I think is so important for you to think about. Okay, what is my purpose for my faith? How does it impact my family? How does my purpose for my family impact my faith? How does my health impact, like as I talked about, impact my family, my relationships, my faith, my career? So in closing, I just think pursuing purpose, starting down the process of getting clarity on what your purpose is so, so important. We have too many people that have goals or they're chasing outcomes versus pursuing purpose or being on a mission. We need to be on a mission in every single area of life. And I think if we do that, it takes courage to do that, but it also can give you peace. You can be at peace knowing that, okay, I am clear on what I'm pursuing. And I'll be at peace knowing that. And that's not soft or passive. That's bold. That's purposeful. That's, that is not a soft word. That is a courageous thing that we need to be doing. So for you, what are the steps forward? Start with your why. Just get that, always put that first. Apply the iterative process. You can use the PEACE framework. If you have a different framework, that's fine. But get clear on your purpose, educate yourself, associate with others, have the courage to act and be an example to others. And just start, just go. And the next quarter, review it, see how you did, see if there's any adjustments you should make. Write down a purpose for every single area of life and kind of put them in a row as the major, but put them in a row next to each other. And how do they support each other? Are they in alignment with each other? What is your purpose for your career? What is your purpose for your health or your family? What are you trying to do there? Start with why. And then align them to your greatest purpose and one that is bigger than yourself and is grounded in faith. And if you do this, if you apply this process, and as it's so important because there's just, as Matthew Kelly said, there's this purposelessness in our society. We're pursuing first downs or maybe we're pursuing touchdowns, but we're not really on a mission. We need to be on a mission. And if we do that, the results will work out for themselves. Look how they worked out for John Wooden. So be on a mission, pursue purpose, and just let go of the result. Don't not go after your I had a prior episode where I talked about this and I was like, let go of the results. That doesn't mean don't pursue mission and purpose. That is not the message. We need to pursue purpose and mission and then disconnect from the results because we know we're moving in the right direction. We're doing everything we can and we're acting with courage. So, and if you do this, your faith will grow, your family and your relationships, they'll get stronger, they'll get better, your health will get better, your wealth will grow. And you can be at peace just knowing that you're on a pursuit, on a mission to live your best life and be the best version of yourself, as Matthew Kelly said. So, and he also said, by the way, direct quote from him, peace is the ultimate aim. That's directly from Matthew Kelly as well. So a lot of great books. I encourage you to check those books out. They're just such good resources. We really appreciate you watching or listening or whatever you're doing, whatever platform you're on. It really helps us if you subscribe to our channel. Again, whatever platform you're on, or leave us a review, but really subscriptions are a big deal. Those are seen and tracked and kind of help boost. So if you subscribe, maybe that gets a few other people to follow or listen or see this and have an impact on them. So we greatly appreciate your support. For the Purpose Matrix, signing off.